Action Comics number 0, written by Grant Morrison, art by Ben Oliver. This follows Superman pretty much, I guess, as soon as he gets into Metropolis. So we see him placing the order for 200 t-shirts for Superman's t-shirt look. And then he goes to the Daily Star and gets a job as a reporter there. Just showing him getting all set up. And then we see him playing video games with Jimmy Olsen. And apparently they've been living together briefly. And Jimmy has this crazy huge apartment because I guess his parents are like rich. But like his father walked out on them, and then his mom took care of him. He was raised like poorly. And then when his mom died, his father took him back in, and this is his way of apologizing, is buying him extravagant things. So more of an origin story for Jimmy Olsen than anything else. But regardless, Clark makes the point like, hey, Jimmy, you know Lois Lane, right? Maybe you could get a meeting with me. And he's like, not a chance. Lois would not be interested in meeting you, Clark. Sorry, that's the one thing that'll never change here in the city of tomorrow. So then we get a glimpse of Superman on top of a building where there's, I guess, a hostage situation going on. And there's a helicopter nearby, and Superman just takes down their helicopter, and he's like, hey, guys, what's going on here? And they all start firing on him. He's just blocking all their shots with his cape. Apparently is bulletproof. And they fire off a RPG at him, which hits him square on the chest, which does end up knocking him off the building. But he's alive. He's fine. But he crashes down the alley below. And when he gets down there, a kid comes by and he's like, whoa, mister, you okay? And he takes Superman's cape and runs off with it. So half the story is devoted to that kid. But anyway, we go to Jimmy and Lois, who I guess saw the entire thing happening. I genuinely don't see where they could have gotten that vantage point, but they did see it all happening. And they're trying to pitch it to Perry, saying like, this dude took a bunch of guns and an RPG to the face, and he literally like jumped up. Like he jumped from the alley to on top of a building. This dude's a superhero. And Perry's like, I need more proof than some blurry images. You got to give me something more than that. But they do have an emblem of his, or they do have a picture of his emblem from his cape. And they're like, all right, well, it's an S, Mr. S. What does the S stand for? Find that out. So cut to the kid. He's headed back home, I guess. And when he steps in, his father is abusing not only, it looks like his mother, but also his son. Or I guess the other guy's brother. And he steps in, he's like, leave him alone. And the father comes at the kid with a knife. And the knife just snaps off as it hits Superman's cape. So then the kid just rounds up a punch and punches his dad in the stomach. And then takes his brother out of the apartment somewhere safe. So then we go to Clark getting into his apartment. And it's the same Mrs. Nixley who is showing. It's like, oh, yeah, we got all types of weirdos here. It's going to be fine. And she recounts how her husband was a magician who is basically in a coma because some rival magician messed with his trick. So he's been in a coma for 7 years. And apparently his trademark appearance was a purple bowler's hat or bowling hat. So that's something to keep track of. But regardless, he ends up checking into his room. He only has a single bag. And he's like, all right, let's do this. And he unzips his hoodie to show the Superman t-shirt underneath. So I'm going to go down to a train yard where the kids are, I guess, running away to. And the older brother who has the cape is like, with this cape, nothing's ever going to hurt us. We're going to be fine. But the dad managed to track them down. And he's of course been drinking, and he comes up to him and says like, if you get near us, I'm gonna hurt you, I swear it. And he's like, oh yeah, you want to see someone get hurt? We'll see how that goes. So then Lois and Jimmy are making their way down to where Clark lives, and apparently he lives literally right across from this train yard. So they happen to see this happening, and they hear this kid screaming, and the kid in the cape has his foot stuck in the rails as a train is approaching. And the dad yanks away the kid's younger brother and says like, oh, you better watch this. This is what happens if you go against me. And the kid just clings onto the cape tightly and says, like, nothing can hurt me, nothing can hurt me. And over just this beautiful series of panels here, Superman jumps in front of the train and just puts his feet down on the ground, a la Spider-Man 2, and just stops the train right before it hits the kid. And the kid's like, I was only borrowing it, as he hands back the cape. So Jimmy, of course, is getting snapshot after snapshot of this whole thing that just happened, and Lois is like looking on wide-eyed at the whole thing. And Superman's like, oh, this meant a lot to me. Thank you for keeping it safe. And by the way, that bully of a father of yours, he's not going to bother you anymore. I'll make sure of that. He's like, oh, can I ask you a question, mister? What does the S stand for? So then we see the aftermath. Superman leapt over tall buildings away, and Lois starts writing her story. And she looks, and she's like trying to figure out, like, what does the S stand for? And she comes up with the moniker Superman. And that's where we leave off. This was fantastic. This was like just a small little thing it's just a boy took Superman's cape, and then Superman came in and saved his life. And it was the iconography to it, the like symbolism behind the cape and all that, the fact that it was like able to protect this boy. And then Ben Oliver's art is just fantastic. I think he was the one who did the first arc in Batwing, and I was praising him constantly there. This was really, really, really good. So overall, I'm going to say I'm going to give it a 9, honestly. It's really, if the entirety of the run were stuff like this, of just these smaller little one-shots of Superman just saving people, I would be down for everything that came out of this series. It's so good. So, yeah, not much more I could say about that.